to Alberta Impact Business. I'm your host, Bryce Lambert. I often have conversations with our senior generation of entrepreneurs just on how running a business has changed over the years. Without a doubt, technology is the key player. So what is 2020 going to look like for business in Alberta? Joining me tonight is the only Canadian who's part of the True Profit Group. Please welcome Ryan Vespi. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you have a pretty crazy story. I want to get into your background a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, you started 21 at CompuVision. You were the third employee. Kind of take us through your journey that got you here to being the CEO today.
Yeah, it's a great question. I was 21 years old. I played in a rock band, a hard rock band at the time. I thought CompuVision was going to be one of these stopovers. Our founder, a guy named Bernie Bourgeois, was just a great guy. He's really good at letting me take vacations when I need to go on tour and those type of things. But as I grew up with the company, he started to give me more responsibilities and things started to really moving forward for me in my career. And I had a chance to bounce around into a whole bunch of different roles. And then in 2009, fast forward, I was 33, I think. And Bernie came to me and he just said, I'm not the guy anymore. You're the guy. And at that point, he tapped me on the shoulder to become the CEO of our company. And you have to put it in perspective, I didn't go to business school. I went in to become a graphic design kind of multimedia guy. So I love that creative side of things. But he gave me the opportunity. He just said, you're the guy to take this company to the next level. So at that point, I became a shareholder. I became the CEO, and then from there, we started to rock it. And we did 2 or 3 acquisitions. We've built an amazing team, and we've tripled our business in the last 7 years. So there's just been a ton of growth and a ton of excitement of where we're going. So it's been fun.
That sounds pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
So you guys really focus on disruptive tech, which is a big thing, especially coming into 2020,
Sure.
and cybersecurity. Can you kind of tell us about how, we saw some examples of cybersecurity issues and whatnot going through Alberta and government organizations and businesses in 2019, 2018. Can you take us a little bit through what cybersecurity is looking like in 2020?
Yeah, it's one of our 3 pillars. We focus on, management, protection, and accelerate. And so the accelerate would be where the emerging tech stuff is.
Gotcha.
But when I look at protect and around cybersecurity, we are literally in a digital pandemic right now. And it's an interesting situation because no one talks about it. Only the ones that kind of hit the news that are high profile. A medical organization in Ontario just got hit last week, and tens of thousands of records have been compromised. And so the tricky part is we need to be able to bring this out to the forefront so that we can actually have these conversations so people can protect themselves. The problem is no one wants to bring this forward for a couple reasons. 1, they're embarrassed. 2, it might impact shareholder value, especially if they're publicly traded or they have multiple shareholders. So the market now, if they've known they've been compromised, is going to impact value of shares. And so this is a reason why a lot of this is just kind of kept under the rug, because we don't want the market to know that we've been compromised. And so this has to change, this mindset, because we've got to be full aware and get ahead of this. And what we've seen even in the trend going from 2019 to 2020, there was a 5x growth within cybercrime in the SMB market in Canada.
Holy Jesus.
So and that will continue.
Right.
Because you can imagine once you start actually compromising businesses and getting money out of it, either through crypto locker and ransomware, criminals will now realize that this is a perfect target. Canadians are the most ill-equipped, I would say, around the world.
And we've heard
because
that
we're
before.
We're friendly, we're trusting, and that does need to change definitely in the digital world. We just got to be far more prepared than we are today.
More on top of it.
Correct.
So disruptive tech, can you tell us what disruptive tech actually means for the people that don't really understand it, and where that fits in coming into business and conducting business through 2020?
Yeah, it's a buzzword and it's almost getting tiring. They heard there were disruption and disruptive and emerging tech.
Yeah.
The best example I could give you is innovation is making something better and disruption is making something obsolete. So if you think about music, back in the day when it was non-digital, we would incrementally make it better, going from a tape to a CD and so on.
Yeah.
But when they turned it to zeros and ones, when they digitized it, it actually made how we listen to music completely obsolete. So when the iPod and all that came out, once it was turned to zeros and ones, it completely, obliterated what it looked like. So that to me is disruptive tech. Organizations, I think, for the most part, have never looked at their businesses, no matter what industry you're in a digital lens. They have a non-digital product or service that they actually create and they sell to the market. And they've never really thought about, how do I turn it to zeros and ones? How do I digitize an aspect of it or the way we deliver it to zeros and ones to be relevant, for the future?
Right.
So that's the trickiest thing. So most part, and I would arguably say, people that are experts in their industry, that have been successful, have a successful business, are less likely to digitize their business because they've figured out a recipe. They made money, they have a return, they have a good balance sheet. And so why would they want to change, their famous recipe to be relevant for tomorrow? But the problem is these external factors around them are going to either force them to do it or they just won't be here.
Well, we talk a lot about that in even the entertainment sector and whatnot, with the growing of the younger generation changing over to more digital content, digital digestion of their material that they're looking to find and information. And so changing, like you were just saying, changing over to the zeros and ones is going to be imperative. Otherwise, you will become obsolete.
Correct.
So you see kind of like the old dog mentality starting to leave and the newer generation pushing forward.
It's totally true. One of the things, I talk about this all the time, about AQ. And so adaptability quotient, that is something that is actually really focused on in Silicon Valley, where how good are people adapting to change? And if you think how fast our world is moving, it's moving faster than it's ever moved before.
Yeah.
And as slow as it ever will again. It will never move this slow again, which is just kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Yes.
And we have to get way better at adapting to that pace. And if we don't, we're going to be truly left in the dust. And I tell people this all the time. If I had to give Alberta or Canada a grade on our AQ, it would be a failing grade. We're not good at change.
Yeah.
We actually don't want change.
Yeah.
And we have to think differently and embrace change and actually be excited about it. And I think that is the way we get out of all of the geopolitical issues that we face here in our country, in our province, to really move forward. And I think digitization is the way we can do this, to do it faster, quicker, cheaper, better.
So I think you've really touched on it. You've mentioned that there's definitely an opportunity for this kind of push and innovation here in Alberta. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for that here in our province and in the country of Canada? How do you see that kind of moving forward?
So where I'm bullish and I'm super excited about is, if you think about the austerity measures that are coming down from, I would say, our provincial government and even the national government, there's this expectation that we have to do more with less. And there's no way we can do that with just our current sources. The only source that will drive that change is technology.
Gotcha.
Turning things to zeros and ones.
Yeah.
And so where I'm excited about is there's certain cities and municipalities that they get this. They realize there isn't more money coming from taxpayers. There's not more money to create more jobs, and they're not truly in the business of creating jobs. They're in the business of managing tax dollars and in driving an efficient, deliverable mechanism for the citizens that it serves.
Yes.
And so I really believe that if we can start focusing on the low-hanging, non-digital fruit that is there a better way that we could deliver this? Can we turn it to zeros and ones to drive efficiency and make that happen? That is where there's a massive opportunity. And when I look at our province, and I'll just focus on Alberta, we have so much infrastructure and deliverables that are non-digital today, that are inefficient, that are old guard, that are manual things that we could turn to zeros and ones and drive efficiency. And not only that, take it to another level, commercialize, productize it, and sell it to the world.
Right.
Sell it to other, jurisdictions around this country, which will generate revenue besides tax dollars.
Gotcha. And there's a lot of, and like there is a lot of those opportunities to doing that, turning those zeros to ones, turning the analog to digital, I like to call it.
Sure,
So changing that, and so it's just having the right. We have the talent for that. We've got that talent here. I mean, we've got when it comes to artificial intelligence, we always talk about University of Alberta, third in the world. We've got some killer stuff happening in the green energy and renewable energy sectors. So there is. The talent is here. We know what we're looking for and what we need to change. We just need the right people in the places to get it done and change it. So
I think one of the things too is we talk a lot about AI and the research aspect of AI in our province, which is incredible, which is world class. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Where the gap is, and how you keep researchers and people that are intrigued in this, is you have to have complex problems for them to solve. And so that's one. You have to find those problems, and I'd arguably say those problems need to come not only from the public sector, but the private sector, which we're seeing with Alta ML. As you see them, they're starting to really catch steam in regards to driving the changes with the connection with the private sector. But public sector as well needs to start bringing these problems. But that's one thing. It's another thing to be able to do research around it, and it's another thing to commercialize and productize it, to sell it. And I would say that is where our gap sits right now in Alberta. And I'm working with a few people within our province right now to see how do we close that gap. So if somebody solves something incredible and leverages machine learning and AI, how do we now turn that into a product that we can sell to the world? And that missing link is so critical to be able to drive success within the ML AI world. So, I see that happening in 2020.
Right.
You're seeing more and more of that happening. And I believe there's enough problems. We have enough problems. We're sitting on a bucket of problems.
No kidding.
And so we don't need to go anywhere to try to find them.
Right.
We just have to have people that are be open enough to give them to the market and get people to solve it, and then productize it to get it to another market to generate revenue.
You betcha. Right on. Ryan, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your thoughts with us about business in 2020. This has been super insightful, so I'm glad that you were able to join us. So thank you again for coming in. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
So there you have it, folks. If you'd like to learn more about Ryan or connect with him, we have links below this video. Thank you for watching. See you all next Thursday at 7 p.m.
What that's called.